Okay, it's time to talk Bond. James Bond. Specifically the Brosnan movies, and why I think his portrayal of 007 is among the weakest. I appreciate this is a controversial take. A lot of fans love Pierce Brosnan. Many people think he saved the franchise after that Welsh bloke ruined it. And to be clear, I don't dislike Pierce, and I don't hate all of his films. He made 4 during his tenure as 007. GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. They are a mixed bag, but there is a common thread. In my opinion, Pierce Brosnan is consistently bland.
I probably need to provide some context. I grew up in the early 80s, so Roger Moore was my favourite Bond. I think Moonraker was the first film in the series that I saw, and The Spy Who Loved Me quickly became my personal favourite. The films were shown on TV in the UK on a regular basis. Rarely a month went by when there wasn't at least one Bond film on ITV. And whenever a Sean Connery movie came on, it didn't sit right with me. He wasn't my Bond. He didn't have the wit, didn't have the charm, and he just looked wrong. But when I was 12, I discovered Ian Fleming's books. I read them all and realised this is the real James Bond. This is what the character is meant to be like. So then I switched my allegiance from Moore to Connery and started appreciating the early films because they were pretty faithful adaptations of the novels. I also came to despise the most recent entry in the franchise, A View to a Kill, because it was a million miles from Fleming. It was silly. It was a borderline parody of James Bond. So when they recast the role, and Timothy Dalton made his debut as 007 in The Living Daylights, the timing was perfect. As a precocious Fleming devotee, I thought this was the ultimate Bond film. No giant laser, no plot to wipe out the human race. This is a smart, tense, Cold War thriller incorporating an original Fleming story and featuring a Bond who looks, acts, and behaves like the character in the books. License to Kill took things up a notch. It was gritty, it was brutal, depicting Bond as a cold killer, almost an anti-hero. I appreciate I'm in the minority here. Critics turned on Dalton's portrayal, and License to Kill underperformed at the box office. Maybe audiences weren't ready for this type of Bond movie. Yet. It's such a shame that due to a boring legal dispute between the Bond producers and the studio, Dalton's third film got put on hold, and ultimately never got made. The third outing for any Bond actor is so important. It's that third film where they truly relax, become comfortable in the role, and make their mark on the franchise. See Goldfinger for Connery, The Spy Who Loved Me for Moore, Skyfall for Craig. So Dalton walked away. Bond was recast again, and almost a decade after narrowly missing out on the part, Pierce Brosnan became the 5th actor to play James Bond in the official motion picture series.
GoldenEye opened in November 1995. I remember coming here to Leicester Square to see it. I was a film critic for BBC Radio Kent at the time, so it was a press screening at the Odeon. I was ridiculously excited. Bond was back on the big screen for the first time in 6 years. And of course I loved every second of it. GoldenEye is a great action movie.
And one thing you can't deny is that Pierce Brosnan looks the part. He has a strong screen presence, he wears the Brioni suits and Omega Seamaster so well, he walks the walk. But talking the talk? Well, you can almost see it in his eyes. He doesn't want to go too serious, too dark, doesn't want to get accused of being humorless and cold like Dalton. But he also doesn't want to go too light, doesn't want to upset the Fleming fans. Unfortunately, I think he falls into a dead space in between. It's almost like his game plan was to emulate previous Bonds, give it 50% Connery, 50% Moore. At no point do I feel like he's bringing anything new to the character. And as far as portraying Ian Fleming's James Bond is concerned, this feels like a step backwards. Look, I'm not averse to Bond movies having a lighter tone. I'm still a fan of the Roger Moore films. But Roger brings a lot of personality to the role. Pierce doesn't. Also, I don't think he does a great job delivering the one-liners.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
How long did you say the fuse was?
Oh, grow up, 007.
They all said the pen was mightier than the sword.
Thanks to me, they were right.
Now, GoldenEye, at least the original draft by Michael France, was written for Timothy Dalton, and I can't help but look at this movie and imagine how much better it would have been with Dalton in the lead role. Tomorrow Never Dies, released 2 years later, was written for Brosnan, and it's pretty enjoyable. He gets a great Bond moment in this one, the clinical slaying of Dr. Kaufman.
Wait! I'm just a professional doing a job.
Me too.
Otherwise, Brosnan looks and occasionally sounds a bit pissed off in this film. Maybe my review of his performance is coloured by the knowledge that the production was a nightmare and Pierce was not happy on set.
The good news is The World Is Not Enough raises the bar. Not only do we get that incredible pre-credits river chase along the Thames, we also get two strong villains and a related plot twist that Christopher Nolan borrowed for The Dark Knight Rises, and we get a more confident turn from Brosnan. Remember what I said earlier about each actor's third Bond outing?
This is definitely Brosnan's strongest performance. All his interactions with Elektra King, played by Sophie Marceau, are among his best moments as 007.
You'll be safe here.
I don't want to be safe. You wouldn't kill me. You'd miss me.
Yes.
Dive, Bond!
I never miss.
I still think a different actor would make this film better. Brosnan remains too vanilla for my liking, and I still find myself wincing at some of those one-liners.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
And then we hit rock bottom with Die Another Day, one of the worst entries in the franchise. It has a stupid plot, awful directing, terrible CGI, an invisible car, and a hammy villain. Plus, Brosnan practically sleepwalks through this film. Well, we all know what happened next. The producers decided to go in a different direction. Brosnan was binned, Craig was hired, and the series was rebooted with the best Bond film ever, Casino Royale.
Should we up the blind?
And so we come to the crux of my problem with Pierce Brosnan. He's sandwiched between my two favourite Bonds, Dalton and Craig. Two actors who brought a harder edge to the character and who, in my opinion, have come closest to bringing the literary 007 to the screen. Brosnan compares unfavourably with both of them. Now granted, this isn't his fault. If he'd succeeded Roger Moore, I probably wouldn't be making this video. Also, I appreciate he's just an actor. He's subservient to the writers, directors, and producers. So I will point the finger of blame at all of them for moving away from Fleming, departing from realism, making the series too fantastical, and turning James Bond into a superhero. What do I mean by that? Well, look at the state of Bond after the tanker chase at the end of License to Kill. Look at the state of him after having his balls scratched by Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. He's sedated for several days and spends several months recovering in a clinic. In Die Another Day, he is tortured and poisoned in a North Korean jail for 14 months. What effect does this have on our hero? Well, he needs a shave and a haircut, but otherwise he's physically and psychologically undamaged. How am I supposed to buy into this?
However, the time is probably right for a Brosnan retrospective. I haven't seen any of his films in a few years. I need to give them another look. Maybe my opinion will change.
Here's what's going to happen. At some point in the near future, although we could be talking several weeks, I'm very busy right now, I am planning a Brosnan Bondathon, a Brosnandathon. I will watch and reappraise all 4 of his films, and then I'm going to host my first ever live show on YouTube. I'm going to invite some friends and fellow Bond fans to join me, and we're going to discuss the Pierce Brosnan era and reevaluate his performance as 007. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be able to contribute to the debate via the chat.
And if you click the bell icon, you'll be notified about future videos, including that live show. In the meantime, let me know in the comments what you think about Brosnan as Bond. I expect most of you are going to tell me that I'm just plain wrong. Thanks for watching to the end. I'll catch you soon.